Hey guys, I am here to talk about ordering decimals today. Yesterday we talked about comparing decimals, and I talked about how this year we've already done comparing numbers and we've done comparing fractions. And so comparing decimals is essentially the same thing, you're just looking at decimals. And so ordering decimals is actually going to be the exact same. We've ordered numbers and we have also ordered fractions. So now we're just going to be ordering decimals. And something I want you to think about is when you're ordering decimals, essentially you are just comparing more than two decimals. So if you know how to compare them like we did yesterday, then all you're doing is you're taking 3 or 4 or more, but we're just going to stick to 3 or 4, and you're comparing those numbers and putting them in order. Now, something you have to pay close attention to when you're doing that is what the question is asking. Is it asking for you to order them from least to greatest? Or is it asking you to order them from greatest to least? Because if you don't pay attention to that, you might put them in the wrong order, which would make your answer incorrect, okay? So I wanted to kind of just give you some tips today and show you how I would go about ordering ordering decimals. And to me, the really big thing you have to pay attention to when it comes to decimals is looking at the different places that the digits are in and starting with the same place each time and comparing from that place and then moving on from there. I think if you do that, then you will do just fine, okay? So when we talked about comparing decimals yesterday, I told you guys that the place to start would be the tenths place because that's the greatest value when you go beyond the decimal point. So when you go to the right of the decimal point, the tenths are the greatest place. And then each place that you move down further to the right gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, we've only talked about tenths and hundredths, but it does go beyond that, thousandths, 10,000ths, and so on. Just like we do going up, we do the same going down. So today we're just focusing on tenths and hundredths because that's all we're focused on this year in 4th grade. So something I wanted to start with was ordering decimals from least to greatest. So you can see here, I have order the decimals from least to greatest, okay? So when I start looking at these numbers, and I'm gonna take these 4, and I'm gonna compare them, and then I'm gonna put them in order down here below, okay? Maybe I'll make a line. I'm gonna put them on my line. When I compare them, I'm gonna start in the tenths place because that's my greatest place. And I'm going to actually be looking for not the greatest number, but the least, okay? Because I want to go least to greatest. I don't want to confuse myself. So I'm going to go to the tenths place and I'm going to start comparing, and I'm looking for which tenths place in these numbers has the smallest value. So I look here, my value here is 7/10, okay? Here I have a 0 in the tenths place, which is as low as you can go. Here I have a 6 in the tenths place, and then I have a 7 in the tenths place. So clearly my smallest number is the number with the 0 in the tenths place. So when I go to write this from least to greatest, I'm going to start with my smallest number, which is 0.07, or we also call it 7 hundredths because there's a 7 in the hundredths place. Okay, now I just keep doing that and going back through and saying, what's the next smallest? What's the next smallest? Okay, looking at my tenths again, I have 7, 6, 7 in the tenths place. Well, which is the smallest? 6 is. So my next one is going to be 0.67 or 67 hundredths. Notice that I put a comma between each one to separate them. All right, next I'm looking at my tenths again. I have 7 and I have 7, same number. So when I have the same number, I have to go to the next place over, which is the hundredths. In this hundredths place, I have a 7, but look here, in this hundredths place, I don't have anything. Well, remember I said yesterday, if there's nothing there, you can put a 0 there. I mean, technically a 0 is there, it just doesn't change the value. So if I look at I looked at my tenths, I had 7 in each. Now I'm looking at my hundredths, I have 0 or 7, which is smaller, 0. Okay, think of it like this, 70 is smaller than 77. 70 cents, remember we talked about change? 70 cents is smaller than 77 cents. So next is going to be 0.7. You don't have to put the 0. This is 7/10 or 70 hundredths, sorry. And then finally, my last one's going to be 0.77. Now, if you look at these and pretend like they're regular numbers, not decimals, this should help you. You can check your work really quick and easy. So I could say, okay, 7, 67, 70, 77. Please don't be confused by there not being a 0 here. If the 7 is in the tenths place, or it's kind of like being worth 70 cents, 70. Kind of like when a 7 is in the tenths place, it's 70. When a 7 is in the tenths place, did I say that? Hold on. If a 7 is in the tens place, it's worth 70. If a 7 is in the tenths place, it's like 70 hundredths or 70 cents, okay? So I know that's probably the thing that's going to be a little confusing, but think of it like cents on a dollar. This is 7 cents. This is 70 cents. Yeah? Okay. All right, let's do it again. We're going to go a little faster this time, but we're doing the same order, least to greatest. All right, so I start in my tenths place and I look for the smallest number in the tenths place. I have 0, 5, 5, 5. All right, well, that kind of makes it easy. 0 is my smallest. So I'm going to put 0.05 or 5 hundredths first. Now, next I have 5, 5, 5. So what do? I go over to the hundredths place and I look in my hundredths. Remember, you write a 0 here. And I say, which is the smallest? I have 3, 1, 0. Which is smallest? 0. So next comes 0.5. So this is like 5 cents. This is like 50 cents. Okay. Next, I have 0.53 and 0.51 left. What's smaller, 3 or 1? 1 smaller. So I put 0.51, and then last would be 0.53. That's because I'm going least to greatest. So I have 5 hundredths, 5 tenths, 51 hundredths, 53 hundredths. Okay, does that make sense? Awesome. Now we're going to go reverse order. So let me change my colors. You're doing the exact same thing, except now when you start, you're going to start in the tenths again, same thing, but you're looking for the greatest value in the tenths because that's going to come first. All right, right here. Let me draw my line. I've got 2 tenths, 32 hundredths, 2 hundredths, 23 hundredths, okay? So I compare and I'm looking for the greatest value in the tenths. I've got a 2, a 3, a 0, a 2. What's the greatest? 3. So I put 0.32. If it helps you when you're done with it, guys, I always recommend cross it out. Then you're not confused. You're not going to reuse it, okay? Next, I'm looking for the next spot. I have a 2, a 0, a 2, okay? I have 2 2s that are the next greatest tenths. So I'm going to have to go to the next place over, okay? I got 3 in my hundredths. I've got nothing here, which is the same as 0. I'm looking for the greatest. So I'm going greatest to least. So what's greater? 0.20 or 0.23? 0.23 is greater because there's a 3 in the hundredths, not a 0. So I put 0.23. If it helps, cross it out. Next is obviously going to be 0.20 because I'm comparing 2 and 0. I'm trying to go greatest to least, 0.2, cross it out. And then 0.02. Hopefully that made sense. All right. And at any time you can pause this, but if you want to pause it now and try this last one on your own, you certainly can, or you can just watch and then practice on your sheet. Okay. So again, I'm going greatest to least. So I'm going to start and look at my tenths place and look for the greatest number in the tenths place. I've got 8, 0, 9, 0. Okay, it should be pretty clear. The greatest value in the tenths place is the 9. So I'm going to put at the front 0.99. Cross it off. Okay, go through it again. I have 8, 0, 0. Okay, next greatest is 0.89. Cross it off. Okay, next I have 0 and 0. Okay, same value. So I have to go over to the hundredths place and compare this. 9, 8. Which one's greater? 9. So then I go 0.09. And finally, last one, 0.08. Sorry, my handwriting's so bad. Okay, now if I want to check my work, simply look at it as your money. I'm saying greatest to least. So I have 99 cents, 89 cents, 9 cents, 8 cents. Okay, does that make sense? So definitely check yourself. Like I said, the easiest way to think about decimals is especially tenths and hundredths, is to think about money and cents going into a dollar, okay? Hopefully that makes it a little easier. Today, what you're working on is this sheet. It's exactly what we were just doing. So again, pay attention to what it says. This says least to greatest. Down here it says greatest to least. So please pay careful attention. Do what I did. Just keep going through it each time. Compare the tenths. And then when you can't compare the tenths anymore, go into the hundredths place. So hopefully you found this video helpful. Please email me or message me if you have any questions, and I am happy to help. Good luck with everything today, guys.